The city lights of Metropolis glittered below, but on the rooftop of the Daily Planet, a different kind of darkness had fallen. Superman, the symbol of hope, stood with his shoulders slumped, his cape heavy, not with wind, but with the weight of the world. Lois Lane watched him, her reporter's instinct, telling her this was a story no one had ever heard. "I can't save them all, Lois," he said, his voice raw, stripped of its usual booming confidence. "Every day, I hear them. A plane falling in the Pacific, a building collapsing in Tokyo, a child crying for their mother just down the street. Who do I save? Who do I let go? This power feels like a curse." Lois reached for his hand, but he pulled away, revealing a small, crystalline device pulsing with a faint light. "This is an old Kryptonian artifact. It can transfer my abilities, just for a little while. I need you to understand, Lois. I need you to feel what I feel." Before she could protest, he pressed the device into her palm. A blinding light engulfed them. Clark Kent stumbled back, suddenly frail, a mortal man shivering in the night air. Lois, however, felt a surge of energy, a power so immense it was terrifying. She felt the planet breathing, felt the hum of electricity in the wires beneath their feet. And then the sounds hit her. A million voices, a symphony of suffering, crashed into her mind. A fire alarm blaring downtown, the screech of metal as a speeding train derailed miles away, a desperate, hushed whisper from a bank vault. She gasped, overwhelmed, and then instinct took over. She pushed off the roof, shattering the sound barrier as she rocketed into the sky. Her first stop was the train. With a strength she couldn't comprehend, she caught the lead car, her muscles straining as she guided the tons of metal back onto the tracks. Passengers stared in disbelief as she gently set it down. But there was no time for thanks. The screams from the burning building pulled her away. She flew to the blaze, her breath a gale-force wind that extinguished the inferno in seconds. She saw the faces of the people she'd saved, filled with awe and gratitude. For a fleeting moment, she felt like a god. Then, the whisper from the bank echoed in her mind again, now a frantic plea. A hostage situation. She arrived in a blur of motion, but it was too late. The silence that met her was more deafening than any explosion. She saw the aftermath, the tragedy she was just moments too late to prevent. She could save a train, stop a fire, but she couldn't be everywhere at once. The crushing weight of that failure settled upon her, heavier than any train car. This was the choice Clark made every single second. Meanwhile, back on the rooftop, Clark Kent was experiencing a feeling he hadn't known since childhood. Fear. He heard the sirens, saw the distant glow of the fire, and knew Lois was in the thick of it. He was powerless to help. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of Lois breaking under the same burden that had nearly shattered him. He was terrified of her carrying his pain. For the first time, the Man of Steel felt desperately, achingly human. As the sun began to paint the horizon with hues of pink and gold, Lois floated back down to the rooftop. She looked exhausted, her eyes holding the ancient sorrow of 100 lifetimes lived in a single night. She collapsed into Clark's arms, the godlike power flickering around her. "I understand now," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It's not about control. It's an endless tide of pain, and you just have to decide which wave you can stand against, knowing the others will crash down somewhere else you were stranded. It doesn't come from the sun, does it? It comes from enduring this, from choosing to get up and do it all again, every single day." Clark held her close, feeling the warmth of her presence, the anchor that had kept him from being swept away all these years. "I survived because of you. You kept me grounded and reminded me I'm human." Lois looked at the device still glowing in her hand. "The world doesn't need two gods," she said, her voice firm now. "It needs a hero. And it needs someone to tell us truth." She pressed the device back into his hand. The light flared once more, and the power flowed back into him. He stood tall again, the cape lifting in the morning breeze. No longer a burden, but a banner of hope. Lois felt the power leave her, and with it, the cacophony of voices, leaving only the sound of his steady heartbeat. He was Superman again, but something had changed. He looked at Lois. not as someone he needed to protect, but as his equal. The partner who shared his greatest secret and now his greatest pain. As they stood together, watching the city awaken, they understood. Lois now knew the true costs of the hope he represented, and Clark was reminded that his greatest strength wasn't flying or lifting mountains. It was the love of a woman who showed him that being human was never a weakness. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this look into the heart of a hero, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories that explore the humanity behind the superhuman.